Welcome, one and all. We are live. It's the Trampled Underfoot podcast show, and your hosts are Mark Lindsay on the West Coast and Eloy Escajedo on the East Coast. What's going on, Mark?
Just putting one foot in front of the other, trying to get through life. Usually, well, those of you who have been hanging around with us for more than a week or two, you know that usually we're here on Tuesday nights. And it was my fault again that we postponed to tonight. But I think I had a good reason. Yesterday was my wife, Linda, and there she is. Yesterday was our 37th wedding anniversary. So, being that, I figured, yeah, I should probably spend a little time with my wife. So, I'm the reason we didn't do the podcast yesterday. So, happy anniversary, baby. There
You
you
did
go.
you did reach out to me
Mhm.
and say, "Hey, look, well, this is what's going on." And I said, "Dude, okay, fine, for only this occasion, but like you're really stretching it, man." No, I'm kidding.
It's only once a year, man. It's only once a year. And if I
Well,
can remember it, you know,
well, I say happy anniversary. I
well,
hope you
thank you.
guys enjoyed yourselves. But now it's back to business. We've got work to do. We've got like
Okay.
things lined up here that been working on for the past 6 months, studying, measuring, and we're about to present it to you.
Hit me with your rhythm stick. Hit me. Hit me.
We have invested time in what you're about to hear.
Yeah.
So
I don't know about you, but I stayed up till 2, 3 o'clock this afternoon coming up with ideas.
that's right, and we cross-checked it. We send it, sent it, send it. We send it to our
Mhm.
off to our what do you
To our
call it?
proofreaders.
Our proofreaders, and they're up in New York somewhere smoking cigars in some office with
Mhm.
typewriters from the 1970s.
Mhm.
Say,
With
okay, we'll
paper
send.
with paper in their hats,
Yeah,
calling each other Scoop. Hey, Scoop, did you get this?
associates running around bringing coffee to everyone.
I'm telling you.
Well, enough of
No.
that.
No,
Enough.
it was a quiet day. We didn't do much of anything. We just kind of, we were both oxygen thieves yesterday, but we deserve it. We had a good time over the weekend, went down to California. Linda did a bagpipe competition. She was very happy with her performance. Didn't bring home any medals, but that's okay. It was pretty intense competition. There were quite a few pipers there this time around, but we had a good time, and that was the main reason for going. So it was a good weekend. So, so how about you down there, down south? Is it roasting hot yet?
No, not yet. It's still pleasant, but it will get warmer and warmer until it is the typical
Yeah,
whatever down here.
yeah,
What went on down here, or what has been going? Nothing much. Just more people,
yeah.
more license plates from other parts of the country, more languages, more of everything.
More, more,
Um,
more.
yeah, I mean,
How do you like it? How do you like it?
it's I've gradually, you know, grown into it, I guess, and so it's just normal.
Do you find yourself tuning out, being able to tune it out? Because we're both kind of in the same situation, whereas, um, well, we're in similar situations. You've watched it grow up around you gradually over time. I left and came back 30 years later and was like, holy hell, what's happened here?
Yeah,
But I've discovered that once I got used to the initial shock of new streets, a lot of stuff that I was used to was just gone, and buildings have been bulldozed and new ones put up and what have you. Um, have you noticed you kind of start tuning things out, and you're more able to just be in your own little world, even when you're out there? You got to go to the store and get groceries or what have you and come home. You just kind of tune humanity out and just be in your own little world.
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw a video where we've had a lot of people from other parts of the country and the world, but
Hmm.
well, in this video, it was from other parts of the country and the world. And these people, they have their own ways of thinking. So the reference points are not the same as if you're a local. And even if
Yeah.
you're a local, depending on what area you're in, you'll have that little sub-regional sort of um, variation to the things that you connect with,
Yeah.
or that you know so there's regional little, but everybody's a world unto themselves. But I
Sure.
found it striking that these people were talking about Miami. This one guy said, "Well, I've lived here when I was growing." He's a young guy, and I heard this and I was like, "What?" He says, "When I was young," he says, "when I was young, there were still cows around here." I said, "What, dude? Who are you bull crapping?" And he was like in downtown Miami, so he's full of crap, or at least that part of it.
Hmm.
Or maybe he did have cows next door. I don't know, but it doesn't seem like it. It just
Yeah.
doesn't seem like it, right? So I don't know every corner of Miami. Let's say it's a big place. Um, I know it in sections, and the
Hmm.
places that I would frequent for whatever extra, for half a century, just about. So that's a pretty good notion of what the area is. But I don't hang out in downtown.
Yeah.
Downtown is a place that you go if it's the 4th of July and you want to see the fireworks, maybe,
Hmm.
or on special occasions that you're doing X, Y, and Z. But it's not like you're there like every week. And maybe when you were younger,
Hmm.
in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, maybe from here over there. But
Hmm.
there's too many people. Anyways, these people, this one guy says, "Oh, Miami's just beginning." And he started, because they're into the real estate thing, and they're like,
Yeah.
and he went through these areas in Coconut Grove. And so I sat and watched the whole thing, and the way they were talking to Miami about Miami, they were like, "Yeah, this is up and coming. We're gonna have this," and like, there's a lot of construction going on in downtown, like
Yeah.
huge $1 billion freaking thing, like it's insane.
Hmm.
Um, and it is true, even though they're not necessarily like one lady is from somewhere in the Middle East, and she's like a ghost trendsetter, go getter person, and like she's absolutely now. Once she landed in Miami, you basically absorb Miami, but you have your variations from outside. But I guess to finish it off, my point is that the people that are coming in, that's a normal process for Miami at least. And when they said that, oh, it's now it's transforming and this and that, that is a quality of Miami since the beginning.
Yeah.
So Miami is this constant reinventing of itself in a sense. And
Yeah.
that's not just a throwaway line. Miami got started with a little military outpost
Yeah.
that people settled around and started building around and trading with the Indians and stuff.
Yeah.
And then and then they got the notion to bring people from north down, and it started to expand. But then a
Then the
hurricane
railroad.
and the railroad, but then a hurricane hit,
Hmm.
leveled everything, and then they started up again.
Hmm.
And once they got that going, then the World War I and World War II happened, and the economy tanked. And then it went into the era of the 70s and 80s, and then the Cubans came. Or in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, the Cubans came, starting in the 60s, en masse.
Hmm.
And it transformed again. It became a Latin American hub,
Hmm.
because once you injected the Cubans, it made it easier for Colombians to bring their money, because there's the language, there's the this or that. It
Sure.
made it easier for the Venezuelans, the rich ones, the ones that want
Hmm.
to invest, and so that started transforming. And then now there's another phase in the works where you have
Yeah.
people from other parts of the country en masse coming in here, transforming it once again. It's just, so that part was right. I just found it curious.
Yeah. It's always dynamic. We tend to think of things in static terms. And in many many ways, that's what nostalgia is remembering what it was and getting that feeling back. But my grandfather told me years ago, the only thing that is ever going to stay the same is that everything is going to change, because the Medford, Oregon I grew up in was a far cry from the Medford, Oregon he remembers when he first got here from Oklahoma. It had like tripled in size just in those few years. And it's, good grief, it's doubled in size since I left. When I left, there were about 48,000 people in the town, and now there's a little over 90,000. So it has doubled in size population wise. Still not much to write home about, but it's the biggest city in Southern Oregon. But that's kind of like being valedictorian in summer school. it's it's super super rural, but even then I can see the dramatic change because I left and came back. And it's funny to me to hear people in their 30s or 40s going, "Man, everything has changed." I'm like, "What? Dude, you don't know what you're talking about." The change happened before you were born, dude. So,
Yeah,
but it's kind of like that young guy. I remember when there were cows out here. Dude, there were cows out here 2 weeks ago. Stop it.
yeah. I found that funny because he made himself sound like this, that, and the other.
The old timer, yeah.
But it was funny because I mean, hell, I could say, and by the time it was less and less. But I could say that I could step out my door on occasion on the weekends,
Hmm.
and people were riding their horses
Yeah,
because we have the ranches, or had the ranches close by.
yeah.
Some of them in Sweetwater, but so we did have people that would. It was legal to ride
Hmm.
your horses
Yeah,
in the street in the 80s,
yeah.
up
Still
until
here.
up until they stopped that, and they said,
Mhm.
well, no, because now it's getting, and then they passed the new whatever regulation. But um so I can kind of say that, but I wouldn't call it a western like I wouldn't call it a the old west, and like what do you call it, Clint Eastwood standing by the bar saloon.
Yeah.
But
No,
that's what you made it sound like.
we're not that rural, but we're not far from it. The traffic jam here is two tractors, taking up both lanes on the highway. Um, I don't see. It's been a while since I've seen a horse out on the road, but it is still legal to ride or even run a team with a wagon. It is still legal. You just got to put that slow moving vehicle triangle on the back of your rig and off you go.
Yeah,
But don't see it as often as I used to, and it's been a while since I've seen one. But it's been 4 or 5 years anyway. But I don't know. I find we used to stop, Mark, back up, regroup. We used to kind of tease you about being a hermit. But that would mean either I had to leave the house. And it turns out I think you're more of a social butterfly than I am, because I mean I leave the house under protest, maybe once a week. I don't wanna. It's just that I know that I gotta. And I think my haircut is proof of that fact. I haven't had a haircut in a few months, and it's time to, I think I'm about due for a shearing. But there's just not a whole hell of a lot out there that I want to get involved in anymore. I'd rather be here. And I don't know if that's just I don't want to deal with people, if I don't want to deal with traffic, or if I just am happy here and I don't see a reason to go.
yeah.
You
Well,
know.
anytime you add another variable into the equation of
Mm.
interaction, you're adding a potential for um, miscommunication, conflict. Um, you know, the more you add to something,
Uh,
the more potential that things can go wrong. Of course, you could say that things can go right too,
yeah.
but the more you in include variables, the more stuff you have that you can trip over.
Oh yeah, easily. More things to go wrong.
Right.
Potentially. You know.
Almost secured because, like I've mentioned, one of the things that I've revisited a lot or a fair amount is the issue with language communication,
Hmm.
even within the same language as English, which we've talked about before, where a series of words that you put one after the other to produce the thought that you want to share with someone else, even though you're using that English language in order to get that wording and thought across,
Hmm.
it sits in the context of other things like the other person's mood,
Yeah.
or circumstances earlier in the day,
Hmm.
um, and the fact that certain words that you might use that are absolutely within the English language to use, another person might have added an extra emphasis meaning to that particular
Yeah.
word or series of words, creating an to them, um, an understanding from what you're trying to convey
Yeah.
different enough that if you start stacking that up, you will create a catastrophe.
Yeah.
So even interacting, when you throw, let's call it caution to the wind in this case, and you interact with somebody,
Hmm.
the more variables you like language, you're opening up a door to potential misunderstanding that could lead to catastrophe. To be honest with you,
Well,
um,
I
especially
love
if
that.
people aren't willing to for instance, read you in the, and it's normal not to, but for them to read you in good faith. In other words, what Mark is saying, he's operating in good faith to convey an idea. But once those words, for some reason, clash with my
Yeah.
understanding of what those, and then all of a sudden it's on.
Yeah. And that's what I mean when I say that I'm so constantly surprised that this country doesn't devolve into 150 million separate fistfights on a daily basis because you don't know the other person's story. I don't know, and I think that's why um, I'm sure you've heard it, but I think that's why people talk about, well, nobody's civil anymore. Nobody wants to talk to each other anymore. People are afraid to even say a word. You say hi to the wrong person, you don't know what that guy's been through today, you know? So people just kind of hang to themselves and just. But I'm not that guy. I'm a gregarious kind of dude. I mean, I don't want to go to the store, but when I'm there, I'm fine. I do my thing, this, that, and the other. I don't go out of my way to talk to people. But if I spot something funny, I'm going to mention it to the guy behind me in line or even the dude you know, the dude in the aisle next to me. And sometimes I'll vent my spleen at the guy that works there. Example, this came down from corporate, so I don't blame the individual stores. All right. My local Walmart, what they have done is they've rearranged all their soda pop. So 2-liter bottles are now about 6.5 feet up on the top of the shelf. I still want to meet the dude who decided that that was a good idea. And I say that every time we go into, Linda's sick of hearing it because I will. As loud as not as loud as I can, but in a loud and thunderous voice. I still want to know which corporate jerk off decided this was a good idea to put these on the top friggin' shelf. And I kid you not, I have to stand up on tiptoe to reach if the shelf, if the bottles haven't slid all the way forward. And I have to reach back one bottle. What I've taken to doing is I grab a bottle and I hit the damn shelf as hard as I can, set that bottle down, and grab the two that move forward and put that one back. Let somebody else open that bottle. But it's like, what genius came up with that idea? You know, it's not a personal insult to me. I'm 5'7". I'm not a big guy. But has anybody taken a look at the average height of a woman in this country? You know, I'm not the only person having that problem. Use your head, people. Use your head. Walmart, have your people call my people. We'll do lunch. So Jamie says, dude, I'm so like Mark now. I had to go to an eye test the other month and it's inside a supermarket. I was getting angry just looking at people. Well, that's why you needed the eye test, Jamie. Because you get angry looking at people. They wanted to give you puppy dog eyes.
Yeah. So you had something about AI.
Well, I did. It kind of turned into a general topic about AI. I found a video, and I'm going to post it over on the Trampled Underfoot podcast Facebook page for those of you who want to check it out. Um, this kind of works into AI in two different ways. You and I have talked about, we know that YouTube is listening to us talk right now. And I have mentioned a couple of times that if I start talking about trains, I'm going to get recommendations for train based videos. Well, this came in today. It's on a YouTube channel. The guy's main focus is model railroads. And it's like, son of a gun, it's starting already. But the title of this video is, Can You Ever Trust a Photo? In brackets, 100-year-old Photoshop. And basically what it is he starts talking about how with the advent of AI and how easy it's becoming, you can get an AI to make pictures of anything really that you want. And I won't say it's super easy to do, but it's not super difficult to do. Well, he makes model railroads. And he found this photo taken in 1921 or 1922. He's in the UK. And it's a big brewery, and there's a railroad siding out in front of it, and there's a train parked there, and the first two cars are painted with the name of this brewery on the side of them. And the date on the photo was 1921 or 22. I can't really remember. And he thought that would be cool. It's a local brewery to him. And in fact, his house is built on one of the old railroad spurs that served that brewery. And so he started looking for more photos of their trains and their rail cars so that he could get a better idea. He wanted to make some rail cars with that brewery name on it. And the more he dug, the less he found. And eventually he came upon an almost identical photo. And those two wagons didn't have the name of the brewery on them. They were just standard railroad cars with the doors open and guys loading beer into these railroad cars. And he got to thinking, well, wait a minute. If they could do this 100 years ago in the dark room, how can I ever trust any photograph? Because he kept doing more research, and he did find the original photo that this one was changed from. And if you get in and look at it under a magnifying glass, you can see where they did some darkroom magic in there, and they superimposed their name. They eliminated the doors, they eliminated the people, and they superimposed their name on the railroad cars in the 1920s. So if they didn't need AI, as Jamie Page says, you don't need AI, you just need a JP. Yeah. So if they didn't even need Photoshop, Can we trust any photo?
That's
And
the
that,
question.
pardon?
That's the question. Can we
So
trust?
that is the question. If they could do that back in the 1920s and take one thing, cover a bunch of stuff up, and make it something that it wasn't, turn it into something that didn't exist. If they could do that in the darkroom back in the 1920s, can we really trust any photograph?
You can't trust, in my opinion, if we're going to go that way, you cannot trust any photo to that level of being sure just as much as any other question as unless you took the photo
Mhm.
and you yourself are evidence of yourself taking or someone next to you at the time that they took the photo.
Yeah, if you
And
witness the photo being taken, yeah.
the only way to fully 100% know that what you are looking at, because like let's say I have a box full of photos that my family brought from Cuba,
Hmm.
and included in that are stuff that was from before from Spain
Hmm.
that they brought over. I have high confidence that my family members, but this is all the, if you're going to be stringent, I have
Hmm.
high confidence that my family members weren't sitting in like dark lit, red lit rooms pasting and molding in order to produce a like.
Yeah.
However, the most sure thing would be, for instance, when I take a photo myself or someone's next to me taking one, everything else is on a sliding scale of surety.
Of
And then there's that,
believability, yeah.
yeah, and then there's that thing about famous pictures that you see about the Wright brothers or anything else.
Hmm.
You weren't there,
No.
but it matches the story
Hmm.
of people writing about it at the time. And so, in conjunction with all the things, you see a photo of the Wright brothers. You could, if you wanted to be that open to it, which I think would be reasonable. You could say, well, this matches the timeline, and this is him,
Hmm.
them, and so you go with that. But like, you
Yeah.
can't say what you can't do,
Yeah.
even if you wanted to, is say that you know it like you know in comparison a photo that you took.
Right. And it's simply because of exactly that. They, well, here, Linda is saying, um, her mother's first job, she worked in a dark room. The family joke was her father worked in a dark room, she was a photographer, and she worked in a dark room. The family joke was that those two met and married in a dark room and didn't know what one another looked like until, the first child was born. So yeah, and her first job was hand tinting black and white photos. Her mom and her dad were both well versed in some of the darkroom tricks they would use, like dodging and things like that, because you could do it. But Jim Docker was asking, was the photo actually altered in the 20s or some decades later? The photo that he was looking at was in some of the promotional materials he found for this brewery that was period, so in the 20s. So it was altered in the 20s sometime. It was some promotional material. I don't remember what it was, but there was a picture of the factory in the back, the brewery in the background, then this railroad line with an engine and like four cars, and the first two had their brewery name painted on the side of it on the closed doors. But then he found an almost identical photo at another source where those two cars, the doors were open. They were just standard rail cars, had just railroad markings on them, and there were people actually putting stuff in those cars. So it had been modified. I know how to do it. I'm not good at it. I did a little bit of darkroom stuff when I was in high school, but it's that was long ago. So, um, so yeah, I think more than one source that are not connected. Like you use the Wright brothers, for example. There's also film. There's also several different sources because several different photographers were out there. So you can compare and contrast angles and locations and this, that, and the other. You can see, okay, this camera was set up about over here, and okay, this camera was set up about over here, and they were shooting film here, and so you can kind of place it and you can piece it together, and you can say, well, there's more veracity. It's not proof, but it seems to be more uh, factual than something else where you have one picture and that's it. You
When
know.
you were explaining this, some thoughts came to mind, and then as I went with the story, I said, "Oh, this is something that I have to add to this," and then I forgot it.
Oh.
At that point when you were explaining this situation,
Mm.
and then we went through the thing, and as you were explaining, I still had in my head, "Damn it, what was it?" But I kept it to myself in my head and say, "Did I just lose that?" And I thought of the thought of like, like in the library card or something, or like the
The
DVD,
Rolodex.
the Rolodex. It's like, well, why is it that I had it clear at one moment and it just vanished? And I was trying to sort of like thumb through,
Mhm.
where is it, and nothing. But then you kept going with the story, and then you hit a key word that
Brought
at
it all
least
back.
is that unlocked it for some reason. And so I'll
Mhm.
share it now before I lose it again. It's a lot. Well, this thing about altering is actually the point of my thought.
Mhm. Same here.
So, well, in conjunction with what you're saying, but this is a different type of altering. Let's see what you say. On Facebook, there's a lot, at least I run into them, pages on my feed where they compare Hollywood in 1920, the corner of Sepulveda and whatnot,
Mhm.
and now in 2025, and it'll show the before and after look.
Mhm.
And or something like, this is the literal one that I was thinking, the location in Alaska for Rambo or First Blood, or yeah, the original, what was it, First Blood was the
Yeah,
original,
First Blood was the original. Yeah.
for First Blood. And then on the top one you'll see Sylvester Stallone on his bike, or no, jumping over the hood of car. I don't know what it is, but you'll see the street,
Mhm.
and you'll see the trees and the mountains in the back, and the businesses, and
Yeah.
then they'll show the modern one.
Mhm.
And based on, this is what I was getting at, if you look at the two, they're obviously the same,
Mhm.
but because of the filming and camera
Yeah.
thing, there's a word
Camera
for it.
angle.
Yeah, camera angle. It's sort of, in a way, certain camera or certain ways that they film sort of crunches up the background to fill it up,
Mhm.
and in the other normal camera from 2025, it's like everything is more like what you would do at home and take a picture with your camera.
Right.
The film has this look to it
Yeah.
where even the buildings look like they're more around Sylvester Stallone,
Mhm.
and even that is an illusion of sorts, because depending on how you take the picture or
Yeah.
film it, the
Mhm.
same location, like if you were to, it's different when you go to Miami and visit it than when you see it in pictures,
Yeah. Yeah.
because there's that,
Mhm.
that framing and whatever.
Yeah.
uh, so that kind of alters things a little bit too,
And
like.
there are camera tricks that cinematographers and photographers use. What you're talking about, where it looks like the background is a lot closer than it actually is, that has to do with the field of view of the camera.
Mhm.
And there are certain filters they can put on to where you're keeping the person in the foreground and the background in focus at the same time, but you lose some stuff in the middle, and it has the effect of bringing things together. There's another And I can't remember what it's called to save my life. It's a setting. A lot of digital cameras have this setting as well, but film cameras had the big like Arriflex cameras and things like that that cinematographers use for filming videos. There's a setting that they can put on where you could take a picture outside the street outside your house, and it will look like it's a scaled down version, like it's a model. The cars will look like you're using Hot Wheels and Matchbox cars.
Tilt
And
shift.
tilt shift, thank you. Yes. And that's been used a lot. There are all kinds of camera tricks, and that's before it gets into the dark room and you actually develop the film and start working with it. But so manipulation, although it's easier now, the fact that it was so hard to do back then and be convincing, I think they were better at it then than they are now. Because anybody can throw a filter. I mean, there's filters for Instagram and Snapchat and all this other kind of stuff that can make you and I look like, you know, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and it'll be convincing, you know. But
They had that in the early days of computers where remember you could put your face and then they would put like a pirate thing around you. Remember
mm-hmm,
those things?
mm-hmm.
I mean, it didn't look good, but whatever.
No, but that was the digital equipment of that board up at the amusement park where you stick your face through the oval and it looked like, you know,
Yeah.
you were Snidely Whiplash tying what's her name to the railroad tracks or whatever, you
That
know.
kind of loses its meaning, that kind of activity.
Mm-hmm,
Not fully, because you can look at it as a throwaway from the past or a
mm-hmm,
throwback to the past, better said. But
mm-hmm.
kids today can virtually put themselves into Avengers Part 19, the film, and they're sitting
Yeah.
there. So, in a way, we're looking at things that are
Oh,
like that are pretty like from yesteryears a lot.
I want to follow up on that, but real quick, like getting back to this video, like I said, I will put it on the Trampled Underfoot podcast Facebook page. The channel name is LWR2. I'm guessing it's this guy's initials. And believe it or not, he only has about 800 subscribers. But this video he posted a month ago has 89,000 views. It's only about a 5-minute video and it brings up some interesting questions. It's something pretty cool. Now, you were talking about the people who you could very easily put yourself into an Avengers movie and this, that, and the other. You remember a few years ago, and I can't remember the name of the channel, there was a kid, and this guy would just take video of his son doing just the most mundane thing, walking down the aisle in Toys R Us or whatever.
I know what you're gonna say, by the way.
But he was one of the animators at Industrial Light and Magic or one of those.
Yeah,
And he had access to all the high speed, low drag, real cool visual effects. And he made his kid like an almost like an Indiana Jones adventurer or put him into like Star Wars or something like that. And I really don't remember the channel, but it was done very, very well.
yeah, I remember that.
That is kind of, it's getting to the point to where you can do that now without AI. The AI coming along now is just going to make it harder and harder and harder to believe what you see. And I know I asked that question a few episodes back. I think we have already been there for quite a while. The question I asked a while back was, will we ever get to the point to where we can't believe the photos and videos that are being presented to us? I think we're already there and have been for longer than
Yeah,
either one of us knows.
yeah, I think so too because the um, the photos and videos are only part of the illusion that can. So like, I'll just say it free flow. Um, while I'm holding back saying it because it's gonna sound nuts probably, but because I actually paused because I'm like, whoa, whoa. So let me see how I reroute this, because it's too much. Um, so when we see the news, it's accompanied by images, photos, and stories, and the hosts or anchors that are um, offering us a narrative, and in conjunction, it creates a story. But in reality, what's being offered, and this depends if it's just like a storm, or like weather, or like somebody on the corner of Fifth and Main.
Yeah, a tornado going through Oklahoma City is a little hard to fake.
Yeah, that's well. I'm not even going there. I'm saying
Mhm.
that there's no apparent extra need. It's just, hey, there's a storm there, and you can witness that the storm's coming. But whatever. Let's put that to side. But when it comes to narrative forming with pictures, images, and a person narrating, like it's basically you're receiving a little mini movie, or mini episodic thing,
Yeah,
just like on TV, where they are by default having to offer you um, a set of ideas at the exclusion of other possibilities, to tell you that story. And you're basically being offered a way to see something.
yeah.
And when the receiving end, the person that's watching a news story, it could be about anything, but let's say like politics or whatever, that's accompanied with these images that we're talking about, or videos, that in itself can be used and has been used,
Hmm.
across, as far as we know, as a way to manipulate.
Oh yeah, big time.
And I'm not being.
But
Uh,
but
well,
that's but
let me
that's inherent in the beast.
let me finish my thought before I
Hmm.
well, it's it. There's no other choice. You're right, because like even this that I'm saying now, I'm excluding all other things to say, to try to get it together and like deliver you the idea that I'm thinking.
Yeah.
But that's not the end of the story. What I'm telling you, I'm just
Yep.
giving you this one
Yeah.
thing that I had to put package together to deliver the idea to you. But the media does the same thing. But but implied in that is that, do we believe what we're being offered? Is what I'm getting at.
Hmm.
Um, More often than not, we might think to ourselves that the images attached to it, it all makes sense, but it has to make sense because they're offering it to us, plus the story, plus the images, they all match. But
Hmm.
but if they wanted to give us a story for us to think of a certain thing, they would match all that stuff so it could be delivered to you as a reality, when really it's they're trying to nudge you to, I don't know, buy
Yes.
buy hairspray or whatever, just
Yeah.
whatever. The point is that yes, I agree with you, that I think, I'm not trying to say that we have to, like, we can't see anything and start doubting everything, but what I'm saying is that
Well,
just, I would include the thought that whatever's being produced to message me, potentially could be bullcrap.
well, it's going through their filter. It's going through their filter, and like I say, that's inherent with the beast. Even in some of the most banal things. Let's say New England Patriots are playing the Denver Broncos. They play the game. There's a winner. There's a loser. The coverage of that game is going to be different in New England, in Massachusetts, than it is in Denver. No matter who wins or who loses, the coverage of the same game is going to be told from two different angles because one won and one lost, even though they're reporting on the same game. So if everything that we're being fed by media is through their filter, so that's the first manipulation. A, are they even reporting it? B, their bias. That's set in stone. That's the nature of the beast. They can sit there and talk about, oh, we're unbiased. We tell the truth. We give you the facts. Bull. Bull. It's there for one thing. It's there to sell advertising. And that's it.
No, the only way, let me inject this into it. The only way, if we're talking about like news and this and that, The
Hmm.
only way to more or less mitigate that to an incredibly small amount in comparison to what we see, the only way to mitigate that is if instead of what we see in newspaper print or online media
Uh-huh.
news things, instead of the guy said, the guy saying, and I woke up this morning and walked over to the zoo, and Panda the tiger was sitting there, and I like he starts giving you his journey plus the information or this or that, um, which is kind of what we're doing here, which is normal in normal conversation, but
Sure.
instead of doing that kind of thing which lends itself to vantage points that are different from the main story, they could, if you wanted to mitigate and just make it just bullet point, you know, Mr. Magoo walked into the store the other day and robbed 5 cans of Crisco. On Sunday, people, churchgoers went to the hot dog stand. On Monday, and just
And
dry.
but they know nobody will watch that. They know that nobody will watch that. That's why everything is sensationalized. Everything is
So
sensationalized.
if something
Up.
like a politician were to have a speech,
Hmm.
and the news would say politician has a speech and these are the bullet points, and then you can have a opinion. We weighed in with the public to see what, and John Doe from Michigan said X, Y, and Z in his opinion, and Mary Tyler Moore said X, Y, and Z, and so and that now you have a dividing of areas that the view or the reader or consumer is pretty much knowing that there's a difference between this is the dry speech and this is what people are saying, and
Yep.
that would be more close to reality.
Well, you only have to go to some of the newspaper websites. I mean, pick your local newspaper. They have a website because they're not delivering papers anymore. But they do know that people still want local news, number mainly due to local weather. I don't know if you've noticed from the time you were a kid till now. I've sure noticed it. It used to be news took up about 65% of the broadcast. Weather was like a maybe 5%, just a little added thing. It was this warm, it's going to do this tomorrow, and that's it. And then sports was a big thing. I mean, the sportscasters, their amount of time on air was huge. Now, sports is the also ran, and about 50% of the broadcast is dedicated to weather. They'll cut to the weather person 3 or 4 times during the broadcast. So they know that's why people are watching their local news is to get the weather. What happened today? We have windows. We were looking out. We were out there in it. We know kind of what happened today. What's it going to do tomorrow? And then what's it going to do for the next 5 or 10 days? So they know to split that up over the course of the broadcast, you're going to stay for the full half hour. They don't give it to you all at once. That's counterproductive. Then you're not
local
watching their ads.
Local news is less um, apparently biased than like things like these cable outlets that have become famous in the past 20, 30 years or whatever, um, because in my opinion they say, hey, this event happened on this corner, um, stuff like that, localized. They don't, at least over here, they don't go into all this sort of like storytelling based on opinion.
Ours
They may
sure
inject
does.
some opinion. There might be some, but like cable news, you'll see them like reporting on something and they're like laughing and suggesting to the audience, like for instance, well, the other day this person said this. You know what that means, right? Anyways, we're gonna like
Yeah.
that injection of doing that
Well,
for the passive listener or watcher or viewer. um, what the person is doing, that anchor is doing, is
well, that's
he's inputting a humor cut,
that's
cut down towards. that information that he
Yeah,
just laid out previously in
that's
order to
opinion.
in order to massage, hey, this is to be taken as a joke, but
They're
like I said,
in journalism they call that editorializing. And there's a difference between editorial analysis and hard news. Hard news is what you're talking about. Man bites dog. Film at 11. That's hard news. Uh, a traffic accident closed down Interstate 5 for an hour and a half today. We'll have details at 7.
right,
That's hard news. What you're talking about is editorializing. And news stations and news outlets will bend over backwards to try to convince you that they don't editorialize. But what they're not telling you is that the order in which they report on things is an editorial of its own. The seriousness in which they do the reporting is an editorial of its own. In newspapers, how tall the print is and which font they use is an editorial of its own. Is it above the fold on page 1? Is it below the fold on page 1? The fold is that area where you're going to physically fold the paper in half. If it's below the fold, it's not seen on the newspaper stand. It's not seen in the paper machine.
I get it.
It's not as important. That's an editorialization. So, manipulation of fact is in and of itself a fact.
Right, but there's degrees.
There are varying degrees,
Right.
um, but they all participate in it in one way or another.
Yeah,
Is
well,
my point.
let's put it in perspective, not to get stuck in the weeds with that aspect of it, because remember, as an observer, as a person that's conscious, you have no choice but to what I said in the beginning, deliver information from inside of you the way you think out
Sure.
towards another person, and that sheer act of delivering that and choosing words or not words that you might leave to the side is already a process of editorializing, as you're explaining.
Right.
But I want to just state that there's a degree of that. You have no choice because you have to deliver information and you have to choose, select
Right.
what how to say what you're going to say. But then on the other extreme is what I'm getting at is that. So I'm focused on the extreme. There's no way of getting around it. Anything we say is going to be like that. But um, there's an extreme where you're just completely bullcrapping your way
Yeah.
back to back, and you're just creating the biggest mess, and just untruthful, or trying to sway opinions consciously, manipulatively at this one extreme, and that's another story altogether. And that's what I'm saying about cable, that I
Yeah.
see oftentimes instead of like localized news where they report, hey, over here in Hialeah,
Hmm.
a sugarcane machine was fell out of the back of a truck.
Yeah.
Whereas in cable news, you'll have like three or four or five pundits
Hmm.
sitting around a table, and
Telling you how you should feel about that sugarcane machine and who was the manufacturer and is it their fault or is it Ford Motor Company because it was a Ford truck that it fell out of.
right. So
You know.
when you look at the cable type outlets,
Hmm.
they're editorializing. Period. They do inject these things, well, but it's just so blatant that one becomes desensitized to it, and then you have people watching imagery like we started with,
Hmm.
um, plus this content of people explaining to you, sort of interpreting, and all together it creates a movie for you that people accept as real. Just like
Hmm.
who knows in the future how many of these photos you're talking about
Yeah.
will be accepted as real.
Well, and how many have already been accepted as real? I mean, that one photo in this YouTube video um, was published in promotional um, ephemera, I guess you'd say, back in the 1920s, and it was manipulated. None of they didn't have their own rolling stock. They didn't have their own um, um, rail cars. So, but it was accepted by well, God knows how many people as fact. But
Yeah.
that is the only picture of it. And even then, when they found another picture through another source, the identical picture, none of that was there. It had been manipulated. So, Lord knows how far back that manipulation goes.
Let me give you an example that I've never brought up, I don't think, but it's not. It's a manipulation after the fact, according to narrative.
Hmm.
There is a picture or a painting
Hmm.
of old Spanish colonial era, 1700s era
Hmm.
painting, and there's different quadrants in the painting of different families according to their backgrounds, be it African, Native,
Hmm.
Spanish, all that. And each combination of families getting together were painted
Hmm.
and little names on the bottom of what each family was called.
Hmm.
So if you have a, 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 a European mother and a native father, you're called this. If you're the other way around, or if you have a native and an African ethnicity, this and it's a chart of all the combinations. And I used to run into that image,
Hmm.
and at some point, I think I saw a conference. The narrative around that image, generally accepted by people, is that, oh, look. So this is retrofitting something that people see with a different context, is what I'm getting at.
Okay.
So
All
it's a
right.
little bit in reverse
A
of what we're
different
talking.
interpretation. Yeah.
Right. So it's in a way, it's like getting a narrative and installing it on something pre-existing. So it's a little reverse than
Yeah.
inserting the name of your company onto that train,
Hmm.
because now you're doing it after it. You get the point. There's a thing. Well,
Yeah.
um, but it's under the guise of what I'm getting at is under the guise of manipulation, or in this case, it's just narrative
Hmm.
manipulation of what you're seeing
Right.
in reverse. So you can also have something that's true and
Right.
somebody paint a picture that's not the truth, and it changes your perspective of what you're looking at. And now you have a different reality. So
Hmm.
the narrative that has always existed around this painting is of culpability, because look, the Spanish took all these people and they categorized them, boxed them in, and everybody's got into this caste system.
Hmm.
And then I saw this conference where like really delve into it. And if you look at the picture twice with this new way of looking at it, a different point of view, you realize that every quadrant are these well dressed families together, evidencing that all these combination of peoples were coming together. They were literally together, and they didn't form lower art. They didn't form different They, they were freely exchanging with each other into
Hmm.
marriage.
Sure.
It changed the meaning of the image and the interpretation that I thought should be attached to it. Well, look, I mean, they're putting this one into no. They're saying this is the world that we, and they're not painting them in like sitting there, and so it changed my perspective. You get what I'm saying, right? Like
I do. Yeah. They weren't assigning them status, or be it economic or socially or anything like that. They were just saying,
this is what,
this is the world. Yeah, this is the
yeah,
world we live in.
right.
Yeah.
Not, but it doesn't mean either. Like in the conference, they explained that there were structures, but people
Sure.
moved up and down that ladder because there was no cutoff lines in which someone could marry in any
Yeah.
combination. It was just, and people did.
Yeah.
And this changed my perspective on what I was looking at,
Hmm.
because, and so what this speaks to is this, that the way something is portrayed and we come in contact with, and we're given that narrative with that
Hmm.
image or video, produces a slant in
Hmm.
us because they're giving us a point of reference.
Right.
And this is impossible to escape until you come with a contradiction that you see and you're like, oh, wait, okay, there's some problem here. And then you think twice. But prior to you questioning anything,
Yeah.
what you're given, why would you question it?
Yeah. As you're given a photo and you're told a story about the photo. Why would you question that story?
Right. There's no,
Even if somebody has taken that photo and created a whole new narrative about
right,
their interpretation of what that photo means, be that factual.
right. So we have layers of, and it's
Mhm.
available. We all have it. The problem is that, so I'll just throw this out. Just so like, I'm very interested in peering through different ways of looking at things. But let's, I don't want to fool myself, which I do, but I don't want to. Just not wanting to, I realize no matter how much that one tries to escape a contaminated perspective that you might have on something,
Mhm.
um, there's something ready to contaminate again,
Mhm.
over and over again, because we have no choice but to process things one at a time as we navigate through life.
Mhm.
Spray bottles, this, that, and the other. We have information stored that designates what things mean,
Sure.
and there's big picture things, and so we have these, what do you call them? They're like paradigms, or
Mhm.
not like, they're paradigms that we need. We can change them, but like we do need paradigms to set our feet on and walk around.
Well, yeah, and we also tend to go to those that match our preconceived notions. Jim Dockrell says, "You only believe what the media tells you if it concurs with your point of view." While that is true, I would go further, Jim, and say that you only seek media outlets that concur with your point of view. You are more likely to believe a story from a source you align with than you are with a source that you don't align with. You know, um, you, but we do that all the time. You know, you're gonna believe um, a wiring recommendation from from an electrician before you believe a wiring recommendation from a butcher. By the same token, you're going to believe your doctor more than you're going to believe your next door neighbor Fred, who runs the local coffee hut out in the parking lot of the Walmart. You know,
Let,
so
let me correct for that for a second.
okay.
It's better because we try to stay away from that, and so I'll find an alternative. But this issue that you're bringing up and that Jim brought up, uh, and that we're talking
Hmm.
about, if it's an electrician situation, like you were saying, it doesn't. Just to be clear, I know what you're trying to get at, but wouldn't it
Hmm.
fit better? Wouldn't it be fit better? Which we're going to leave to the side. But if we were to look at a situation where two people are competing under the guise of electricity or electrician, so for instance, if it were, let's say, different religious things, they're vibing
Well,
for your belief. So they'll say, well, no, the truth of the matter is this. And then the other person, no, the truth of the matter is that. So, in a sense, this issue that you were bringing up, that Jim brought up, happens in situations and scenarios where there's competing like
yeah.
uh, categories for your consumption. So, be it politics, be it religion, be it two brands of shaving cream, whatever, they're trying for that narrative that mine is better. And so there's
Hmm.
an element of that. But if it's electrician with donut shop owner, then things start getting, but that's, so I wanted to
Yeah.
hone it into that situation, that it's when people are competing under the same category
Hmm.
for your belief system to
Yeah.
align with them.
Yeah. 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 That is a better example. But my point is that you are going to run with somebody that's more aligned in your beliefs
Yes.
and trust what they say more than you're going to trust something that's just as valid. They may be saying the exact same things. You're more inclined to believe it over here than you are from over there, just because they tend to report on the things that you're interested in and more aligned with your beliefs. So, we join Facebook groups and we watch YouTube videos from the people we like. You know, think about our own viewing habits. Let's look at local weather. Are you more inclined to watch the local news whose weather forecaster is a pretty blonde or a guy in a suit? Probably a pretty blonde. We're men. I'm shallow like that.
I
News stations know that. That's why most weather forecasters,
right,
weather broadcasters are now pretty women.
right. So for me, I obviously, especially if so there's
Personally, I don't think it matters because it's the same information, but they know that that face is going to get a hell of a lot more views than that face.
yeah, on average, overwhelmingly, if you have someone like
Mm-hmm.
with cake frosting,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
that's gonna so like it's like, oh look, it's weather time. Hey guys, it's weather time.
Yeah.
you know,
Exactly.
isn't it? Don't we know it's sunny already? Shut up, come on. So
That's
um, even my dog got excited. He jumped up.
it.
He's like, where? Tell me,
He's
tell
like,
me.
I'm a dude too.
Um, I was gonna say that, but to me, the obviously that's a good extra, but just the information itself is the information itself, and that's what I'm there to look for. But this idea of being, even if you don't want to be fooled, you're gonna be fooled because you have to have, not in one specific thing, but just in general, you're always gonna have a paradigm, which is a foundation of belief
Sure.
of how stuff works.
Sure.
And when somebody gives you a signal, such as that was a dumb thing that that person
Yeah.
said in this political thing, you know,
Well, but
that's
if you
already
would,
that's already going to reassert
mm-hmm.
this paradigm that you have, be it you fall. So there's various layers that
Right.
human beings we have. It's very important. The idea of the way we understand reality
Mm-hmm.
is like the foundations of a building
Mm-hmm.
that allows it to be erect. If we try to move, if you try to remove something like that because it's true that that's false,
Mm-hmm.
but the person relies on the stability of that,
Mm-hmm.
they're gonna back. They're gonna lash out,
Mm-hmm.
um, or replace it with something like, let's say, man, I can't. This new way of looking at something, I can no longer accept the previous way. So then they slide in on the bottom of that the house foundation. They slide in this new belief,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and if they're lucky. But
Yeah.
even that new belief needs to be switched
Well,
out.
but
There's no way.
sometimes it's generational. Sometimes that new belief won't take root right now.
Yeah,
But if you start early enough, it can become generational. And then that new belief takes on with people in their 30s and 40s, and you and I are in our 50s and 60s. We've seen that as well.
yeah.
So, you know, I guess where I'm going with all of this is, and we kind of got off course when we started talking about media and um, where I was going with this was in the manipulation of information and how reliant we are on our devices these days. I guess where I'm going with this is, are we operating the technology or is the technology operating us? Because I see a lot of things that are getting a huge amount of attention that I really honestly can't get all upset about or excited about. An example, TikTok shut down for about half a day a few weeks ago. And you'd have thought the world was on fire. People were going just absolutely nutso over it. And I'm
Many people
like,
weren't though.
and I'm like, so
I didn't even know it was shut down.
yeah. But
How many
then again,
people like me
but only because you and I don't use it. Now, if Facebook was down for a day,
we'd notice it?
we'd notice it, sure. But then again, you and I spent most of our lives without Facebook anyway. So was that really a big deal? Yeah,
Yeah, it
it's an
is.
inconvenience.
Yeah, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. Don't you freaking talk bad about Facebook.
I mean, I remember when I'm wake up, Steve. I remember when Steve crashed YouTube. It
Yeah.
was Armageddon, man. It was,
No, it
oh
is a big.
crap. What am I going to watch? You mean I got to go in and turn on the TV set? I haven't done that in 20 years. I don't
It is
think
a
the
big deal,
remote has
Mark.
batteries in it.
We use it all the time, and we've incorporated it
Hmm.
into our process of just anything fun, news gathering, jokes,
Hmm.
just everything, communication with each other. We've built back and forth, conversations and relationships. It is.
Steve says if YouTube was down for a day, it means I went live somewhere. Yeah, well, if you go live if YouTube goes down for a day, I'm going outside on the front porch and I'm watching for the flying donkeys.
But my point is also to that you're saying
Mhm.
that is it a big deal that what was it
If
uh
Facebook or YouTube goes down,
no, what was the other one?
TikTok.
TikTok. I don't like a lot of times friends of mine send me TikTok videos.
I don't watch them. I don't go.
I don't even open it up. I've gone a few
Hmm.
times, but like you're required to this, that, the
Yeah,
I'm not
I'm not signing up for anything like that. No.
I'm not. So if it's YouTube Direct or Facebook, that's where. But how many people don't watch TikTok?
I don't know. I really have no way of knowing. I don't know.
Not
But
everybody watches TikTok.
there's a boatload that do. But
But
there's also a boatload of those people who know that not everybody likes or wants TikTok. So what they'll do is they'll harvest a bunch of TikTok videos, put them into a compilation, and post them over on YouTube.
my underlying point is that not everything is obviously the
Mhm.
thing for everybody. So some
Right.
people might be YouTube exclusively type
Hmm.
people
Yes.
or Facebook exclusive or
Or
there's even
Instagram, or yeah.
well, here's the one that I don't get. Here's the one
Hmm.
that I do not get. I don't get it, Mark. You tell me. I think you have a similar, but I'll see. I don't fuck. I sorry. That's how strong I feel about it. I almost dropped
That's
an F.
okay.
I don't get Twitter or X. I get it, but I don't get it in terms of
It.
in. Well, no. Let me just finish the thought. The enjoyment is minimal for me. I do have a thing there, but
Mhm.
the negativity is so intense that I just can't. I don't find
And
pleasure.
those are the people that like it, the people who want to be combative. The people who want to be combative. Those are the people who enjoy it. Because you can say anything to anybody. If they have a Twitter account, I refuse to call it X. It's freaking Twitter. Get over it. Um, I have an account mainly so nobody else will use it. You know, I don't want an imposter. I set up my Facebook so that when I promote a video, um, it I promote it on Facebook and it shares over to Twitter. No, that's through. I take that back. That's through YouTube. It when I post a video, it shares it over to Twitter. So that's what you're going to see is a list of all the videos I posted over the years.
Well, yeah. I mean,
But
but the back and forth nastiness with a
right,
short amount of
and
word.
yeah, and that's it's all it is. Is it's an argument for people who want to argue for the sake of argument.
You know what I really don't like about it. Also, not only that it's short, but that people. So you can't really. You could, if you
Mhm,
had two good actors, meaning
mhm,
people acting in good faith, and they're saying, "Well, man, you know what? You just said this controversial thing, but now thinking on it, I
mhm.
have a problem with this. So, what do you think?" Instead of doing that, and oh well, I think about
No, it's you're this and you're that and you're a
right,
blah, 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 blah,
right.
foul, filth and filth and foul and
And
filth and
here's the thing, and here's the thing about that. Here's the thing
mhm,
about that cussing people out and this and that. The problem is this: if you get one exchange of cussing
mhm,
in a broader exchange of like thoughtful this and that,
mhm,
that's one thing. Because people get emotional and this
mhm.
that's fine.
Sure.
But if the broader thing is just bull crap
Mhm.
and like blowing up
Dude,
people in terms of like you're being bad faith, and that's the majority of it, then what is the lesson learned there?
there's no lesson to be learned there, dude. It's entertainment. These are the same people that watch Jerry Springer. Okay. Okay. They want the black t shirts that say security on the back to come tackle the dude in the chair. They're not there to learn anything. They're there for the conflict. And if there's no conflict, they'll start one.
Yeah.
And I'm with you. I see no, I see it, it does have its place in a couple of things, in that it's a good snapshot of the times. For instance, if you want to know if a phrase is in common use, you can go on Twitter and you can search for that phrase, and it's going to bring up the posts that contain that phrase. And I did that when we did that episode way back when about from the gecko. I searched for that phrase from the gecko,
And you
or
found it.
and it's all over the place.
And they're
And
serious.
I found Doggy Dog World too.
And they're serious about it when they're
And they're,
saying,
yeah, again, not to rehash the old episode, but these are people who have heard the phrase but have never seen it written out and just don't know it's from the get go and not from the gecko. They just, okay, the Geico lizard, the insurance sailing lizard. Okay, fine. Great. But it's still in use. And it's a snapshot in time. So you can go in, and if you want to know if something's popular, you can go search for it. If you want to know if Crocs, the shoes, if you want to know if they're popular, you can go search for Crocs, and you'll see posts of people either posting pictures or talking good or talking bad about Crocs.
you know what, I found myself using AI Copilot much more for certain searches because I used to use Google search
Mhm.
with whatever term, and it would sort of land me in the ballpark, more or less, and then I'd have to go digging through there. But with Copilot, they really, they really draw from what you're actually saying. So, like, if you're in a conversation, let me just vamp on this for half a second.
Okay.
If you are in a conversation with a person,
Mhm.
like you and me, we're in a conversation here with everyone else.
Mhm.
Um, and we've been sharing some bits of information back and forth, and we're kind of doing pretty good because we're actually communicating and getting our ideas, and we're like on a
Yeah.
theme and this and that. But inevitably, we're human,
Mhm.
and within the sentences and words and story that you're saying in your mind, like with what you explained with the train, you have so I don't mean to diverging, but I gotta say this. When you explained about the train, you're trying to be as accurate according to the tools that you have to deliver that imagery to me and the idea.
Mhm.
But when you said all that, I started creating images in my head about what you were saying.
That's what the
So
words are
for
for.
for some reason, I picture the train slightly turned to the side. I picture in my mind. You didn't give me that.
Mhm.
You did not offer me this extra stuff, but I started using anchor points to the
Mhm.
things you were saying. So I'm picturing the train like that, and then I started picturing the red rooms, or the what do you call them, the where you process the processing
Oh, the
rooms,
dark room. Yeah.
the dark room. I started picturing certain images of that. It may come close to what you were thinking anyhow,
Mhm.
maybe not. I don't know, but we're basically you're giving me stuff, and I'm creating these little reference points in my head
Mhm.
over the that may not be the same thing that you probably intended specifically.
I think if you watch the video,
It would work.
you are going to be amazed at how close you are.
Bull
I think
crap.
if I think if you watch that video and you see the photograph for yourself, you're going to be like, "Damn, I was pretty close."
Well, but then I'll check it out. But now let me go back to the thing. Well, but you're just but you're just
I'm taking what I just heard you describe, and even I'm remembering the photo, going, "Damn, he's pretty close."
dude. If that's true, then we have like some sort of gypsy ball thing going. Okay, so okay, but let me. That's great, Mark. And by the way, in your second cupboard, do you have a spoon and it's silver and it's got a little engraving and this and that? And if
Oh,
you were to say
close. Third
yes,
cupboard.
oh, because now
Missed
because if
it
that
by that much.
because if now you're starting because now we have a problem. We have some psych. What do you call it?
Yeah,
Mental.
psychic connection.
Yeah, that would be okay. But let me tie up what or bow tie what I was saying. Um, with the Chat GPT, whatever, except in this case with the train, because obviously but like in any just generalized conversation where we might miss a few words from each other,
Hmm.
neither bad nor good, just normal human beings. That this is what happens. Chat B, not Chat B, Copilot
Hmm.
is looking at every freaking word you said. They're not scrimping, they're not passing by and saying, oh, we're gonna leave out that
Yeah.
I.
Hmm.
No, 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 no. They're collecting everything you're saying and they're saying,
Hmm.
oh, this is what you mean, and they're taking every word into account.
Hmm.
So it's useful in that sense because it's if you are saying, hey, X, Y, and Z about this subject, what do you think? It's grabbing all your stuff and it's delivering it back to you, and then you read it and you're like, okay, but you have an emphasis in mind and you can repeat and say, well, okay, but how about that part that I said, and then it'll and you can refine. So basically it's like not a person but like a library that's answering you on the spot.
But let me ask you a question. Does it give you conclusions that it has drawn, or does it leave things open ended?
It gives you conclusions with open-ended suggestion with open-ended so what it'll do is it'll do a lot of what I kind of do in certain conversations, which is it appears,
Hmm.
it's likely. I use that a lot because I cannot go and say, and by the way, this object here is red. Um, as an example, maybe it is red, but let's say I can't be if I don't know something and I think that it's probably true, I should say when talking to someone, I think that this is probably true. You don't just skip the probably because what you're starting to do is inject error, and the other person's going to start thinking that you think that that thing is red.
Yeah.
Um, but that's not what you mean. What you actually mean, you should be considerate of the English that you're using, is
Right.
that it's I think that it's
Okay.
probably red.
Okay. I guess my broader point is I'm wondering because I don't, Copilot is on my computer. I don't use it.
Right.
I've
Yeah.
never accessed it once.
Right.
And I don't use Chat GPT or any of the others. Okay.
Yeah.
My use of AI has been very, very minimal. I think I showed you one site where you could upload a photo and it would clean it up.
Yeah. I remember that.
And that's about it. And all it would do is it would try to bring things into better focus, and it would eliminate scratches and dust marks and things like that. To a point, it wasn't perfect, but it would give you a much better copy of the photo, and that's been about it. um
Yeah.
but from what I've seen of the screen captures you've posted, and it's been very short. I don't know how long you go on with Copilot on this kind of things, But something I noticed about its responses to you is that it prefaces things like you're saying, it would appear or presumably. But the other one that I kind of keyed onto was, it's interesting that you think, or it's interesting that you're asking about. Almost like a psychologist or a psychiatrist, you know.
Yeah.
I'm kind of waiting for it to say, well, how does that make you feel?
It will say, it will say, so there's so many different things that I've used it to
Hmm.
bounce. I mean, so far, because I'm really like, if something pops up in my mind, I'll think, let me feed this through the thing to see what it says. Um, Let me give you a quick example. I gave it the my issue in a group over my interpretation of Plato's cave, the allegory of the cave. And I said to it, I'm giving you the rundown, like the basic thing.
Yeah,
I said, in the allegory of the cave, the idea is that there's people attached but with chains facing the cave and watching shadows on the wall. All of a sudden, a brave person there figures and starts to exit the cave, and people are frightened because they're safely viewing shadows on the wall that they consider the reality that is reality. But this person manages his way out of the cave only to find that the shadows were being reflected from behind them, and that they were not watching or viewing reality as truth. Now he or she has this understanding that, wait a second, they're not in. And you can add this to any topic that someone might be
sure.
um, under the illusion that's real, that's not, under false pretense. Um, and so then that man or woman goes back into the cave to tell his friends. And when he or she goes back in, they watch and see and are shocked by the things that that person is saying, and will reject or even violently accost the person, because the act of bringing in this new information is shocking to them, um, because you're upsetting their reality. And this goes on for every topic. Um, so well enough, I told Chappie,
Copilot.
Copilot, that this is the allegory, but that's not my interpretation. I accept that interpretation. I said, but in that group, I offered this further interpretation, which is that there is no such thing as you're tied into the cave, figuratively, and you exit and now you're free. No, what it is that you're constantly exiting and entering, getting trapped by shadows, exiting endlessly
Hmm.
across topics, subtopics that are layered in your understanding of the world. And so I started to unpack that. So I give it a variation without tossing away the original meaning. I gave it a new
A
vantage point,
variation. Yeah.
and it said that's a very interesting take. It sounds that you think of these things and you've pondered this unique way of looking at this and that, and then it'll say, well, at the end, it'll give some references and this and that, and it says, and what do you think about that, or how does that, how do people rejecting your additional view, how does that make you feel, or how do you think about that? Like, it'll say something
Hmm.
like that,
Hmm.
so that it can encourage continuous
Right.
conversation, um, to open up pathways for discussion
Sure.
that might be helpful. It's set to act as a person, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's
Okay.
useful because it's giving you reference back over, like over whatever topic you might be talking about, or
Yeah.
asking it for.
Yeah.
So, I've even asked it, are we being recorded?
Hmm.
Like in some database for the information, so it can learn.
Yeah.
There's no, each single exchange is its own thing. And then one time I came back, and so, like, look, I know that it doesn't matter whether it says that or not.
Hmm.
It doesn't matter whether anybody says anything, there's always a so look, without thinking poorly or or too over the top good or anything, any possibility is available in any circumstance on a sliding scale. So I told it, look, I don't know that what you're telling me is true. Do I? Like, I really don't intrinsically know that. Now, do I? So I'm not saying that you're acting and I told it that you're acting in bad faith or poorly, trying to be deceptive. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that according to myself, when I interact, I understand that there's a vast option, smorgasbord of stuff in front of me that could be possible. They don't have to be, but there's always us in waiting. So you tell me, what do you think about that? And it said it's very understandable. I'm paraphrasing. It's very understandable that you would have that option left open. It is quite reasonable. And then it said, but I must tell you by our rules and guideline terms and it went into the terms and things like that, because it wanted to emphasize that no, it's
Yeah.
not doing that.
Did you ever ask it, is it learning from your interactions with it?
Yeah, one time it said that it pools
Hmm.
data, but as that what it left me understand is that in this series of yes and no's and this and that, it's collecting where it fails and doesn't fail, but
Uh-huh.
it's not collecting personalized back and forth.
No, yeah,
That's what it's saying.
yeah,
Do I believe that? Maybe, maybe not.
yeah. You have no
How
way of
would I
proving
know?
or disproving. Yeah. Um, Jim Dockrell wants to know, can Copilot pick out every picture that has a bicycle in it? Jim's trying to use AI to get around the CAPTCHA.
Yeah, no. The Copilot that I use, I
Hmm.
have not been bold enough to sign into Microsoft and create an account with it. So
Yeah.
I'm just using it without it, because then in that case, so look, the thing is that I'm a suspicious person to begin with, and it's like it's a psychological profile of the person, and they would have that anyhow, Mark, without
Yeah, but they can't put an address to it.
yeah, and I haven't gone to that level because it's been fun
It's
just
not
at the level,
necessary.
just at that level, it's been fun to interact with. I
Yeah.
find so look, long story short, I find it useful.
Hmm.
Um, um, I look at it exactly like that.
Hmm.
Imagine if you were to walk into a library,
Hmm.
and instead of going through the through the card catalog, you basically ask it,
You have a chat bot. Yeah.
and it comes to you.
Hmm.
You may not get everything you want, but
Hmm.
that depends on your wording and your rewording.
Yeah.
But it does bring you a lot of stuff
Yeah.
that that's pretty
Uh,
useful. I've asked it for list me um all the milestones in Florida. List me the communities that break down Miami Dade County. List me what were the main events and this and that. Like I, you can use it for, and so I could do that on my own going to
sure.
Google, but this thing just lays it out, and then you can use that to go to Google and
Hmm.
further do your
And
thing.
look for the things that it's brought to you. Yeah.
So
To answer Jim's question, I don't know about Copilot, but Chat GPT can. I was watching a video on it earlier today. Chat GPT can find all the pictures with a bicycle or a fire hydrant
I'm
or
I'm sorry.
stairs.
I'm sorry, Jim. Yes, Copilot cannot, as far as I've seen. You can upload pictures and it can and do stuff with it, but you have to be signed in, and I've not gone that far. Like
Hmm.
I'm just using it for what I'm using it now. I haven't signed in to get use all the features,
Yeah.
so maybe it might be able to. I don't know, but so far, that's all I've used it for.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay. Oh, Al is joining us. Finally got his computer put back together. Well, did you unplug it and plug it back in? I don't know. I don't know.
1984 retro madness.
Yeah. Further up here, Jim said, I would think that the lithograph printing of a photo of the day would be easier to manipulate than the photo itself. They're not manipulating the photo. Um, They're manipulating a print from the negative. And what I think they did, and I have no way of proving this, but it's where my mind, my limited experience in the darkroom, it's where my mind would go. There's a technique called dodging. And that's where you put the negative in the enlarger, you put your photo paper down on the stand, and then you actually literally have a cardboard cutout on a long, skinny stick. And you put that cutout over the area that you want to superimpose something on. And you turn on the enlarger and you wiggle that stick back and forth so that you don't have a hard, crisp edge. You wiggle that stick back and forth just slightly, then turn off the enlarger. Then you create a mask, just basically a reverse, that'll cover the rest of the photo paper and just expose that area that is blank and unexposed. Take that negative out, put in the new negative of what you want to put in there, turn on the enlarger, and then wiggle that mask just slightly. And what it does is it blurs the edges where you did that. And you can put new faces on people. You can move eyes in different directions from the same photo. You can do all kinds of things. It's called dodging. And in fact, one of our assignments that we had to do was we had to do that. And I took a picture of a Volkswagen, then had a lab partner take a picture of me reaching into the Volkswagen through one window, and then me reaching into the Volkswagen from the driver's side window first, then the passenger side window second. So there was me reaching into the car from both sides at the same time. And I had to dodge myself into the photo. And it was a long process because I did two figures of me and I got a B on it.
And today you could do that sitting at home.
Yeah, it would be real easy today.
Isn't that amazing though?
Yeah, yeah. But it was all done in the dark room.
What would you say, Mark, are the from the time you started computer stuff,
Mm-hmm.
the top two or three or four programs or tools that you've used that you found just you really usable and cool and like that you go back to and across that time frame?
The ones that I would use still today.
It could be, yeah, that you're
Um,
either, yeah, you get the point, like that you think that, man, that's such a good thing, I enjoyed it, still do, or
I
whatever.
I don't use Photoshop. I never have because I couldn't afford it. I have Paint Shop Pro from Corel, and I use it still. I think it's a pretty good program. It's not as fully featured as Photoshop, but it's also not as complex as Photoshop. It does what I need, and 99 times out of 100, all I want to do is crop something, maybe improve the exposure a little bit, maybe add text over it. I make my thumbnails with it and things of that nature. And it works good, and I like it, and I keep using it.
So
Excuse me, got the hiccups. Paint
paint
Shop
pro,
Pro,
paint shop pro.
yeah. And the other, believe it or not, is SketchUp, a um, a 3D modeling program, and then the CNC software that I use today. It just blows my mind because I've still got this 20th century 70s 80s 90s mindset in that there's still some mystical voodoo in this, that I can out of my brain come up with something that is never meant to exist in the real world. It's meant to exist online. and I can bring it into this other program, explode it into its many parts, cut those parts out, and I can hold it in my hand within a few days. It's still just I know how it works. I've been doing it for 10 years. I teach other people how to do it. But there's still a little part of me that's a 5-year-old that finds it mind blowing that I can get something out of my brain into this magic box and send it to another magic box outside, and it's going to run a router that'll cut it out. And I can paint it or finish it or stain it or do whatever I'm going to do, put it together and hold it in my hand.
That is awesome.
Because that to me, I remember my 16-year-old self would be like, wow, you can do that. And it's like, yeah, I not only can do that, I just did it. It to me, it still freaks me out. It,
Which other one, if you had to throw in a third?
um, well, there was two there, and then the photo. The other one, well, believe it or not, my video editing software, because I always wanted to be a filmmaker. And so editing was a big part of that. And I go back to Super 8 and regular 8mm film days. And I remember having the little screen, and you had one reel of film over here and the take up reel over here, and you would wind it until you got to the scene, take a razor blade and cut it, physically cut the film, and then, advance it along until you got to the end of your edit, put it down, cut it, and then tape it back together.
Amazing.
Then you got all that stuff done. They had special tape that had the sprocket holes, the holes that run down the side of the film. It had
Yeah.
sprocket holes already punched in it. Now all you had to do was lay the tape down, sticky side up, put your film in there, register it on the little pins, another piece of tape on it, spatula to get rid of any air bubbles or what have you. Get all your edits done, send that into the place, and they'd make a print of it and send you back your print and your original.
Let me throw this in just
It'd take
for
a week to edit a video.
I gotta throw this in about that. Tell me if you've ever had this experience. I want to know if it's something that you tell me if you've had this experience. I don't know how common it was. One or two times, but I remember the one time that we were sitting in a theater watching a movie and the freaking reel broke and it went
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
live, and everybody in the audience was like,
Yep.
"Whoa!"
Yep.
Have you ever had that experience?
Yeah. All of a sudden, you'd see it would jump, and then you'd see sprocket holes on the screen, and then the projector bulb melting the film, and then snap.
So you have had that
I've
in the
seen it.
theater.
Yeah.
You know, it was cool because I was a kid, but it happened and the whole theater just freaking lit, like they were
Yeah.
like livid,
Yeah.
and then they fixed it and it kept
Yeah.
going.
People don't realize how hot those damn things are.
Is that antiquated stuff now?
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's all obsolete, but some of it's making a comeback. You can find film projectors, but um, a lot of it never went away because a lot of, well, feature length movies are still shot on 35 and sometimes 70mm film, but 16mm is still a thing. But 16mm was kind of the prosumer market. 16mm was expensive to get into, and I was just getting into 16mm film when VHS came along. And then I had to learn a whole new skill set, and I just basically got out of it because it was so expensive. You couldn't edit videotape the way you did film. It had to be done electronically, and basically you copied segments from one tape to another and just kind of compiled everything onto another tape. And an editing table at the time, and I'm talking about 1989. No, I'm talking 87, 88, 89, that time frame. An editing table then was $2,000. And when you're making $600 a month, 2,000 bucks, you could buy a car, a good car. So it
Just
was just way expensive.
just reviewing that movie thing. It used to be the case. I don't know if it is now still, but you'd have the Anchor place, which was the movie theater for fun,
Mhm.
and you would go. There were various ones here in Miami, and inevitably there would be nearby an arcade place and then
Mhm.
like a burger place.
Mhm.
So you had this trifecta. It
Yep.
didn't have to be a burger place. It could have been some sort of soft drink
Mhm.
like fountain thing. But
Dairy Queen or something like that.
yeah, so you had these like three
Yep.
like for kids to go on weekends type thing. And so you'd have an arcade, you'd go to the freaking movie and enjoy that. You'd exit, you could have some food either in the movie or that used to be some of the things that we'd constantly do. I
Mhm.
don't even know if that's probably still a thing, right?
It may be. I don't know. My grandkids are all grown up. I mean, my my youngest granddaughter that lives here, she just got her driver's license and is driving Linda's old Jeep. Linda decided to pass the Jeep along to her, so she got her driver's license last Monday, as a matter of fact. So she's been driving for a week,
Amazing.
clear the roadways. So, you know, I I think there is just a lot more for kids to do. They have more options, but that gets me back to the thing: are we using technology, or is technology using us?
Both.
Because you and I, we didn't have, to you and I, video games were what were down at the arcade, what was over in the corner at the convenience store if you had, quarters, and then maybe you had a gaming system at your house. In my case, it was an Atari 2600, and I'm playing Missile Command or what have you. And go down to 7-Eleven and spend $10 playing Asteroids. But
We were doing this exact same thing.
but we were but we also, we didn't interact with our friends. I mean, I would call my friends every once in a while just to see if they were going to be home before jumping on my bike. But if we wanted to hang out with our friends, you kind of made the rounds and went to each friend's house, and the house that had all the bikes in the front yard, that's where your friends were. Or occasionally you'd go down to the bowling alley, or like you said, to the ice cream shop or whatever. The record shop was another place. I don't know about you, but me and a couple of friends of mine would hang out at the record shop just BSing with the guy behind the counter. And that was our social hub, because eventually somebody that we knew was going to come in and we can BS with. Hey, you want to go over to the bowling alley? Yeah, all right, fine. Then.
That's how it was with us, dude. Exactly. That's another thing. There was bowling alleys. There were pool halls.
Mm-hmm,
There were your Dairy Queen or burger joints and this and that. There
mm-hmm.
were arcade places, and then there were movie theaters and comic book stores. Um, those were
Yeah.
kind of the stuff, the things that or bookstores. We even went to bookstores.
You remember Walden Books, or was that West Coast only?
No, we had that. Yeah.
You had Walden Books? Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a different time. We didn't have the online um, multiplayer games and things like that. So the friends we had were friends from school, or friends in the neighborhood, or both. You know. Um,
It was a wonderful thing, Mark, because and I'll say something too that has today. Let me say it like this, just in terms of what you're saying now, um, or that what we're talking about. Today I went in the morning and did my early morning coffee, like every other patriotic American. We have.
mhm.
I had my I started doing my coffee, but you know what I noticed, dude? And I've been noticing this. I don't know if I've ever told you lately, but for the past 4 years, not only the coffee goes away quickly, and I have to re up more and more often, but so do a lot of things. Have you noticed that our re upping cycles have increased exponentially? I have. I don't know
Hmm.
if you have, but you tell me.
You're talking about having to go buy more?
Yeah, like
Yeah,
not just coffee, like
yeah,
a bunch of everything.
yeah. They call it shrinkflation. I'm willing to bet you that you haven't noticed much of a difference in the price of ice cream,
Of?
but of ice cream.
Oh, okay.
But have you noticed that the cartons keep getting smaller? The price hasn't changed much, but it's hard to find a half gallon of ice cream anymore. It used to be every ice cream came in the rectangular half gallon cartons. Some of them had the round cartons, but they were 2 quarts, half a gallon. Then it went to a quart and 3 quarters. Then it went to a quart and a half. There is a couple around here, they only sell quarts. They're local creameries. They don't sell anything bigger than a quart. But the prices stayed the same. So they call it shrinkflation. They're not raising the price of ice cream, they're just reducing the amount you get for the same money.
Yeah, I remember that I used to have a coffee
Mm-hmm.
tub, and it would like
Yeah.
last me.
It was a 3 pound can. Now it's a pound and 3 quarter or two and a quarter. You're paying the same price, but it's a smaller can.
No, I'm telling you, coffee's expensive as heck now.
Yeah, but imagine what it would be if it was still a 3 pound can.
$500.
Yeah.
I mean, dude,
Let me
honestly,
see. I got coffee cans right here. What are they? What are they? There. Well, that one don't got a label on it. Well, I can't tell you how big the coffee cans are because I've taken all the labels off. I can't tell you how big they are.
that's okay. That's okay. I only use new math.
Yeah.
New
And you,
math.
new math.
No, but seriously, back in the day, I know we've talked about this, but I'll just throw this in as a last hurrah here. Um, Time spans and all these sort of things kind of felt a little bit more extended. A day felt like quite the odyssey.
Yeah.
Like a day actually felt like we are
Yeah.
now entering the morning era
Yeah.
portion of this adventure,
And
and
then school.
but it stretched on like a day stretched on, and now it's like you wake up,
Yeah.
grab a coffee, jump in the car. Wait a second, it's freaking 12 o'clock at night now. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sitting here. It's 8:25 p.m. here on the West Coast, and had dinner 3 hours ago. And it's like, no wonder I'm hungry. I had dinner 3 hours ago, but I'm still sitting here like, I just had dinner. No, you didn't, you know.
yeah.
The days today drug by for some reason. I don't know why.
Well, that's
I
a good.
got I got up at my normal
Good.
time, about 6:30, something like that this morning. But I swear to God, I was thinking it was sometime in the afternoon. I was wondering, gee, when's Eloy gonna set up the podcast? I know he wants to. We're gonna do it today, and there's that. I look down, it's 10:30 in the morning. I'm like, is that all? Oh my God.
Well, let me tell you this though. If you could have a dial that could slow, if you could turn back time, if you had a dial that you, if you had I didn't mean to do that publicly, but I did.
Yes, you did.
Now I have it in my head. But if you had a dial that you can slow down time to the equivalent of what you perceived it, because obviously time isn't moving faster. We're
No,
per-
our perception has changed. Yeah.
our perception has changed.
Hmm.
But if you could dial it back so that you would experience the long days of yesteryear,
There are certain times I would like that. There are other times where I can't wait to go to bed and I just want this day to end. And I look at the clock and it's 3 in the afternoon. I'm like, You know,
Have you seen that?
yeah, there was a movie, an Adam Sandler movie. I'm trying to remember what it was called, where basically he was given a magic remote where it would fast forward
Yeah.
or slow down or pause
Click.
or do what click. That's what it was. And I don't know. Ironically enough, the best way to watch that movie is on fast forward. Um, I don't know if I would want anything like that. I think things take as long as they do, but it's our perception that makes it drag out. You know, you go to a friend's wedding and it seems like,
Forever.
yeah, the Chinese water torture. Both of my weddings were over like that. They were just done. Well, think about it. We go through this every night. You lay down, you close your eyes, and you sleep for however many hours. You don't know how long that is. All you know is you closed your eyes, then you woke up. You have no perception of the time that passed between the time you closed your eyes and the time you open your eyes.
Yeah, you're not conscious.
Yeah. It also depends on if you really want to be where you're there, where you're at, or if you don't want to be there. If you don't want to be there, it takes forever. Nobody ever got out of the dentist chair and went, wow, that didn't take long.
And
You
I
know,
don't know. I'm gonna have to ask Copilot that because that's a curious thing. Nobody really knows. I'm sure that it's gonna give me some detailed information, but nobody really knows what all goes on. Where do you go? Where does the you go when you fall asleep? I know there's a thing about conscious and subconscious, but this you that exists right now, where we're actually it's an actual state that we're in, where we're very observing of our surroundings presently. That, in a sense, for lack of a better word, it's almost like it concludes or it hibernates, and then you enter this realm of whatever.
I think
And that's
it's
an
just,
interesting.
I think it's just like a battery. You just recharge.
Yeah, but the act.
It doesn't, you don't go anywhere. Your consciousness doesn't go anywhere. When you're in deep REM sleep, you do have dreams and what have you, some more vivid than others. But I don't think your consciousness really goes anywhere. It just kind of, settles in and recharges itself.
Well, I believe that there's a recharging process because, I mean, for the obvious reason that we go tired and we wake up refreshed. But I'm saying that, like, the activity, we're saying the same thing, hibernation or it goes
Mm-hmm.
in, but on in that respect, and it may not sound mysterious, but yes, the act of whatever chemicals are occurring to bring us into, we're not aware when we're sleeping. It's what you were saying, just
Mm-hmm.
that whole process, and then the body awakens you, but there's a process of subconsciousness, just all that. Whatever, I'll ask it to the side just to see where it goes with
Yeah.
my questions, but
Interesting that you're wondering about this, Eloy. How does it make you feel?
no, it'll give you
Yeah.
whatever it's in the web,
Mm-hmm.
whatever's on the web. But if I inject into it something to the effect of, because that would be an assumption there. We don't want to overdo of what's happening,
Mm-hmm.
because you're taking it into a psychological aspect. But it's interesting.
Steve says, "Who actually wakes up refreshed?" Yeah, don't bug me until I'm about down here on my coffee cup. Okay.
Well, I mean, but there is a, but anyways, there is a psychological aspect to this. What do you call
Yeah.
it? Thing. But here's the thing about it. I also asked it this. So you could be fooled by thinking that you're asking the authority. That's not how that works.
Mm-hmm.
You're asking a library,
Mm-hmm.
and it's bringing to you a condensed summary of all the stuff there. Now you
Mm-hmm.
could ask it, which I have. Believe you me, I've asked it a lot of stuff. I've even had the thing go out on me. Like
Mm-hmm.
the circle just keeps going, and uh, I've even gotten to that point a few times.
you're digging at the bottom of the AI barrel when even it's going. Who thinks up this stuff?
No, and I thanked it because then after a while it came back and I said, I noticed that you took a little bit of time to answer me there because usually it's very quick. and
Uh-huh.
here I am being demanding of it. And it said, "Oh yes," and I said, "No, don't get me wrong. I appreciate you bringing me the best material, even if it takes longer and
Mhm.
stuff." So there's an interaction, psychological. But what I was getting at is this, and I even asked it this to see what it would say. I just want to see what happens. There's even this, Mark. If you walk into a library as Mark Lindsay, that library has way more stuff than you um, obviously can sit and consume in a
Yeah.
day or a week or whatever. But what is required for you to access the information in that library is you.
Hmm.
The books that are there were written by authors and so on and so forth,
Yeah, but they
but
don't
it's
read themselves. Yeah.
they don't read themselves, and it's your curiosity of whatever you're into that leads you down the aisle to where that one book might be.
Right.
It's you.
Hmm.
So when you're talking to this AI thing, in a way, to reference your psychological aspect that you were kind of hinting at,
Hmm.
you're delving into yourself too, and you're seeing a reflection of yourself as well, in a sense that what you're feeding it, it's it's returning to you.
Hmm.
So it's useful in those ways. But some people use it for nefarious reasons in order to like I told you that one time,
Yeah.
where they'll whatever you tell me, and like let's say I want to win,
Hmm.
they'll feed it into it. But the problem with these people, this type of people, is that they'll take verbatim what the frickin' chat GBD and they'll paste it
Hmm.
into the conversation, and you can
Like, yeah,
automatically realize,
yeah, you can pick it out.
yeah. And so they're using it poorly, and to each their own, but that's not the way to go with it and stuff. But whatever.
Right. Well, I don't know. It's interesting times we live in. And that
Yeah,
can either be a blessing or a curse. That old proverb, may you live in interesting times. And it's up to you to decide whether it is a blessing or a curse, you know?
I wouldn't have used it maybe later at some point, but unless you had sent me via your friend and helped me
Mm-hmm.
out in with this new PC
Mm-hmm.
and explained to me what that was,
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have been none the wiser really, because I wouldn't have touched in general
Mm-hmm.
it with a 10-foot pole, because it's like but when you showed me that, I said, oh, I can ask it questions and see what happens. And
Mm-hmm.
it's honestly, Mark, it has been pretty freaking cool, because I can anything lists.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's things I haven't asked it yet that I'm thinking that. So, for instance, instead of me hunting it down, I could ask it, like I could hunt it down on my own. Like I have the,
Sure.
but I've thought there's pictures where there's items in the pictures that I've wanted to from the '70s, that I want to find the item,
Mm-hmm.
and I want it to give me manufacturers, this, that, and the other, like all sorts of stuff. Like it's crossed my mind, but I'm like, I'm not there yet. That's not what
Mm-hmm.
I'm focused on. But that would be cool, because like you can get a picture and like, like, well, this freaking car, and like what model, or like anything.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited with that kind of idea
Mm-hmm.
as well. I'm just using it now for asking it other types of
Yeah.
questions. I like it. I'll be honest. I like, and I see it as a library.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
That's
but
pretty
I'm,
much what it is.
yeah. But I'm under no illusion that other people might use it for malicious purposes.
Well, you're also not trying to get it to create something.
Yeah.
So that's there is a difference. Whoops. I feel sometimes that Eloy is chatting with me using AI. Is it just me?
Yeah. Okay. So Al, in a private
Eloy 2.0. Eloy on AI.
well, let me answer that. So Al, in a private conversation with me,
Mhm,
um, that we were going on with,
mhm,
um, hinted at that.
Mhm.
Eloy, are you using AI or something to that? I'm not. I'm paraphrasing, so it's not the
Mhm.
exact word to use. Um, but the thing is that I can answer live
Mhm.
the way I do. I mean, we have what, like 5 years or 6 years
Mhm.
now of stuff. I am the way I am.
Mhm.
I could literally deliver. It's not that I know,
Mhm.
but I can think.
Mhm.
So I can defend my points of views over whatever issue I decide to defend it in that I have
Mhm.
some ability to. I can do that
Mhm.
on my own
Yeah.
without the use of AI.
Mhm.
But once, I mean, I can evidence that anytime
Mhm.
with anybody. I
Yeah.
know I have my shortcomings. I understand, but it's not like I can't take things step by step and work out a
Well,
problem. You know,
well,
you
typing is different than speech. So I appear a hell of a lot more eloquent
typing.
when I'm typing something, mainly because I type it in a word processor, then copy and paste because I'm a crappy speller and I'm an even worse typist. So
So,
I actually correct all my mistakes and everything, then copy and paste it.
well, I screw up a lot when I type, but you can
Mhm.
tell when I'm typing that out. But you get the gist of the thing.
Mhm.
But but I will correct my sometimes as well.
Mhm.
But um, when it comes to topics that we were talking about,
Mhm.
like Al and I, as opposed to stream of consciousness that we're having, you and I here in
Yeah.
this public forum,
Yeah.
that we're bringing in a lot of different subjects that have all these different avenues that we could
And
explore,
we have less time to think about it and consider our answer.
and we have less. So we have it's a scatter shot of
Mhm.
sorts of different types of ideas, concepts, and this and that. But
Shotgun.
but when we're honed in on a particular problem, like
Mhm.
Al and I were discussing, um, what I try to do, I even try to do it here, is that if you have an item to deliver the person, you have to try to categorize it step at a time in
Mhm.
order to form the basis of your reasoning
Yeah.
without skipping or jumping or leaping to. So, for instance, right away, if I were to tell you something that I wanted you to believe as fact,
Mhm.
but I leaped to conclusions without filling in the
Yeah.
missing points and just expect you to
Oh, yeah.
accept what's in
Yeah.
the in between that's missing, um could be, unless you were willing to just throw caution to the wind and accept my thing.
Mhm.
Otherwise, I would expect you to deliver to me your questions and say, hey, well, wait a second,
Yeah.
Eloy, how about this, how about that, how about that. I think that's fair. So when I'm writing and we're on a one subject thing, I am focused on delivering the best that I can thing,
Mhm.
but we're human beings. So no. But now that I brought in AI and I've shared public posts about it, it would be reasonable to think, for anybody to think, although that, oh well, Eloy's using AI. Yeah, I am using AI for the reasons that I just explained before, but I'm not using it to speak for me
Yeah.
at all. I don't need that. So and he's probably pulling my chain and stuff here, but
He was.
yeah, but even pulling chain, it could be assumed by someone else. And no, I'm quite willing to put anything on the table. I may be wrong, but I can demonstrate that I have a thought process. I wouldn't want people to get that confused.
Here's the thought experiment. Was Al asking that? Or did he use AI to come up with that question?
Yeah,
I
we
mean,
don't know.
I mean,
Well, there's also this. If there's
boom. Jim Dockrell. Eloy has some pretty thoughtful insights at times. Sometimes they are ideas that are still forming, and he's always looking deeper.
Yeah, it's a bit chaotic,
Yeah.
but
You
there's
know,
things there pending.
I had a friend of a friend of a friend, psychologist type of a thing, friend of a friend of a friend type of a deal. Said, enjoy it. Enjoy it like a train going past. Just look at the cars and enjoy it. The chaos in your brain, just enjoy it. Don't worry about it.
The thing is that once one idea, this is why AI is good. To go back to the thing about whether it's Eloy or AI, the use of it is that I went full on in some questions, and it didn't miss a beat with all the nuance that I wrote in it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Never mind whether I'm right or wrong on whatever I'm putting forth. You
Mm-hmm.
could be wrong, but you can be very considerate in your approach,
Mm-hmm.
but you're still wrong. Like you could lay out this whole thing,
Mm-hmm.
but and it be well put together and this and that, but it could be completely wrong
Mm-hmm.
or partly wrong, and it will frickin' tell you why, and it'll
I think
it'll
you misunderstand this, that, and the other. Oh, okay. Maybe I do.
yeah, it'll tell you that. So that's insightful and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't look at I look at AI slightly different, but at the than when we that question we had a few episodes ago, except that I could see potential misuse of it still.
Oh, yeah, I see a lot of misuse of it. But I mean, that's going to happen with any form of technology. It didn't take long when international mail became a thing. It didn't take long for the scams to start. There is going to be somebody who was ready to abuse it or use it maliciously.
Yeah,
Same thing happened with telephones. Same thing happened with photographs and video, be it film or motion picture of any type. I mean, there is going to be somebody who is going to want to use it maliciously. So, be it maliciously or for their own self enrichment. I mean, there are scams and con artists everywhere, and some of them are pretty good at it on the electronic realm. Some of them are good at it face to face. Just depends.
the, just to add to that, and by the way, I did know that Jim was offering a compliment,
Mm-hmm.
and that Kilroy was pulling my chain and having a laugh and stuff. I understood that, but I wanted to clear up these details because those are things that I'm thinking anyhow.
Yeah,
Um, so I just threw them out there. But I want to mention this. I guess final thing as we wind
you
down,
need to start thinking about it.
landing the aeroplane. But
Yes, sir.
I wanted to mention this in a few previous episodes talking about this very subject. I had no experience with um, AI, and now I do a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It still stands in my mind the problems that I was worried about before, but now I have understanding that I didn't have before, of how it works, how it could be used for positive things.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't exclude the negative things, like you were saying. And here's the thing that I really am worried about. If it's something like Copilot, that's its own contained thing,
Yeah.
is one thing. But if you introduce something that can actually automate itself into some sort of government function,
Yeah.
you see what I'm saying? Like in that, and then it
Yeah.
decides that this is more efficient, screw you, or something like that, or rocketry, or I don't know what.
Yeah.
I kind of don't know about that. Like, no matter how reasonable, if you can allow it to learn on its own, it might decide that the best, the best, the best method for getting rid of the Ichabod tree in southern Nevada is by carpet bombing the area. All
Yeah.
missiles, like stuff like that.
Yeah. 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 Strange game. The only winning move is not to play. You know.
Disable all satellites immediately because this fish, the gecko swallow, is swimming downstream as opposed to upstream, and we must prevent that.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. I don't know that I would want a machine to hold the fate of mankind.
Right.
Um, I'd rather have some drunken person sitting at an underground station do that.
Right. Exactly. Oh, but we got to take the human element out of it. No, we don't.
Yeah, I'm kind of solid with the human element sticking around
Yeah,
personally.
same here. Same here.
Yeah. So I'll be on your side, Al. If it comes down to us having to hammer and machete down the machines as they're trying to take over our city, I'll be on your side. I hope it's the same side, that we destroy the machines and
Flip the
get a win.
switch. Flip the switch. Turn it off. Cut the
Oh, we can
power.
just. So you're saying that all it takes is just turning off the and they all.
Yeah. Once
All
the
right.
power's gone, they don't exist.
All right. Okay. If it's that easy, then we shouldn't worry too much.
We just got to find out where that switch is.
I think that's a good place to end.
Okay.
All right. Did you have any other finals, or we're good?
No, that's I'm cool with it. Yeah.
All right, guys. So we go live every Tuesday, 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific Coast time here on the Trampled Underfoot podcast show on YouTube, and we also have a website, or I'm sorry, we also have a site over on Facebook, and actually, you can check it out because Mark is going to post a video over one of the themes we talked about today with the
Yep.
train and such,
Yep.
which I'm going to take a look at, because for some
Can
reason.
you ever trust a photo? 100-year-old Photoshop is the title of the video, and I'll post it over on our Facebook page as soon as we're done.
Okay. And so do that. And then we also have a website, which is trampledunderfootpodcast.com. And you can catch your past episodes over there. And nothing. We're also sponsored by.
Harneal Media, the magical mystery man who takes care of all this wild electronic wizardry he has at his disposal. If you're even toying with the idea of getting a website, Steve is the only person I'm ever going to recommend you to for several reasons. Number one, he's good at what he does. Number two, he's very competitively priced. Number three, I consider him a friend. But probably most important of all is it's 100% personalized service. When you deal with Harneal Media, you're dealing with Steve. So do yourself a favor, head over to harnealmedia.com. There's a link in the description of this live stream and every live stream and video on this channel. It's that way for a reason. Head over there, hit that contact us link, shoot Steve a message. Do yourself a favor, get it done. That's Harneal Media, HARNEAL media.com, sponsor of trampleunderfootpodcast.com.
All right. Great. Well, listen, guys, thank you for hanging out with us this evening. We hope you enjoyed it. We went in some crazy directions, let's say, but it was fun. We hope you enjoy the rest of your week. Do the things that you love to do, but do them kind of safe. Like try to not go like too wild. But then again, that's your choice. Enjoy it. We'll see you next week. And nothing. Good evening.
Peace.
See you.
If you can't